talking about strings basically. So let's get to it. So first of all, as usual, start up your VS Code, and then comes up, it's loaded. Oh yeah, and then I'm sure we have on our desktop. Let's just create a quick folder called legal bootcamp, and then okay, yeah, I think that pretty much does it. So we're back to VS Code, and then we go to File, Add Folder to Workplace, Desktop, Legal Debugger Bootcamp. Awesome. So we have our Legal Debugger Bootcamp, and then we can just add a new file. Let's call it strings. But some of you might have this folder, so you could just create this file or any folder actually. We call it strings.js. So take note, string.js, no space in between. And then add something I forgot to mention, the autosave, because I noticed a lot of persons had that issue. So for example, check this out. If I do not enable autosave now, and I type log, let me see, hello world, and I run this code, it shows nothing. But you're like, well, come on, I have hello world. I typed hello world. What's the problem? Now it's telling you by the lawyer. I mean, I was about to say by virtue. It's telling you, oh, see, you've not saved this file. That's why you have this white thingy here, this white circle, which when you hover over it, it turns to an X. So the best way I work with VS Code is to enable autosave, or you could just keep using Control S. Like if I do that now, it's just saved. But I think it makes your life much easier, and that's what I use. I enable autosave. So once you do that, come back, you should see this tick here indicating your autosave is now toggled on. So the next thing is I think some of us had some issues. I can't wrap my head around what the issues were. But let's see. One of the issues I noticed was, yes, the terminal. Now, I told you there are two ways you can run your file. One way is clicking this play button, and this would only work if you have Code Runner installed. Let's click on extensions, and you see I have Code Runner installed. So that's the only time you'll see this play button. I just felt I should put that out there. And then the other way you can run it is to right click here on this file, the file. So, because if you right click on the folder, if you right click on the folder, it opens the folder location in the terminal and not, it's a bit, let me not confuse you guys. So you right click on the file, remember, right click on the file. Later on, I would explain the terminal and what it really does. But for now, just know there are two ways to run your files. But for the purpose of what we'll be doing, I think we can just stick to using this play button. But if you're the curious type and you want to play the terminal, you right click, open an integrated terminal, and you wait for Windows to load, or for VS Code to load the start up your terminal for you. And it has, so you see this thing here. Now yours might be a different name, right? But this is the path to the current directory, which is the current folder that your terminal is trying to tell you you are in your present working directory, right? So you are seeing you're in C/user/Tony/desktop/legal debugger bootcamp. And if I should come here, click on this folder icon. Now, if you're using a Mac, it might be different, but I think it should pretty much be the same thing. And this is a Windows 10 OS. So if you're using Windows 8, it might look different. But if you click on this PC and you see this thing here, Windows C, you can see this is your C drive, this is your D. If you click on C and you actually go to users, you see Tony. And in Tony, you would see, where's desktop? You see desktop and you see legal debugger bootcamp. Right? And if you actually click here, what I just did here, you can see still the same path here that you have here, right? Same path here that you have here. So pretty much your terminal is telling you, oh, I'm in this current directory called legal debugger bootcamp. So when you now do something like node strings, if you press tab, it autocompletes it for you. Okay, yeah, it should autocomplete it for you. But in case you like typing, you can type string.js, but usually you just type the first two letters or so and press tab. string or str and press your tab key and it auto completes it. So now this is you telling how would I make this? Okay, it's when you do node string.js, you're pretty much saying, oh, I want you to use node to run this program for me, right? And to execute this command for this file for me. And that is why it works. But if we didn't have a file called string.js here, let me say I mistakenly spelled it to string with an extra s. Yeah. Right, remember it's strings single s here, one s at the end. Here I have two s's. Two, I have the alphabet s twice. So I have it here, and if I should press enter, you see cannot find module blah 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 blah. So if you see this kind of error, right, it means, oh, you are trying to tell it to access a file that you don't have in your current directory, which is going to give you a lot of issues. So let me pause this. Okay, yeah, so right, sorry guys, I had to attend to something. So yeah, pretty much I can't remember where I stopped, but I think I was explaining the module to you guys. So yeah, and a module is pretty much what we call a file that has your code, right? So this string.js is a module, and whatever you type in it is your code, right? But string.js is a module. So this is pretty much saying, error, sorry, I cannot find a module or a file in this present working directory or in this directory. C slash blah 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 blah. It's legal debugger bootcamp, which is this folder. And you see, there's nothing like strings with double s.js. We only have string with single s.js. So I think that was an issue I noticed a lot of us had. So with that out of the way, let's get into strings. So let me quickly clear my terminal. Sorry. Let me clear my terminal. Why is it not clear? Okay, awesome. I actually prefer using git bash to my Windows terminal. So, but I think let's just use Windows. The command prompt. I actually prefer a Linux-based terminal, but that's by the way. So to start, we would have so what are strings? So pretty much strings are series of characters, right? Um, I think they are pretty much series of characters that you can access one after the other and manipulate whichever way you want. So that's pretty much what a string is. Like for example, you have a word called dog. Now, a dog is a string in the sense that you have the alphabet D, then the alphabet O, and the alphabet G. And you can see there's a list of alphabets, right? And pretty much strings are kind of, I wouldn't say, yeah, but let's not get into the technicalities, but just see it as you have a list of words, at least at this level, right? And then you can do whatever you want to do with the characters or what we call alphabets. So if you hear me say character, no, I'm trying to say alphabets, but actually you can have non is anything like non-alphabetic. You can have non-alphabets, right, in that same list of characters. Or yeah, so let me just stop talking and show you guys what that means. So we have, let's say, const sample. So sample is variable, which I think we should all know by now. We had worked on variables. So we have sample, and then we have, let me use my name Tony, right? And then let me log some. I'm not logging sample. Let me log sample. Now you don't need colon at the end. It's not really necessary. So I'm going to run this. So you can either click this play button, or if you're lazy like me, you could just type. You could use the keys Control Alt N and does the same thing. So now you see you have Tony, right? And now you can actually ask it for, okay, what's the first character in Tony? I put doing this. I tell you, oh, the first character is T, right? You can see it here, T. So pretty much this is called indexing. If you're using if you try to access characters in a list by their index positions. Index position just means where are you in the list. So in programming, we start, sorry, something just got into my eye. In programming, we start counting from 0. So if you have Tony, technically it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's actually 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So just replace, just you start counting from 0. And yeah, pretty much. So the first character in my name, Tony, the index position of T, sorry, right? That is in the list now, right? It's 0 for T, 1 for 0, 1 for O, 2 for N, and 3 for Y. So I just felt I should equally let you guys know, just in case. So technically, you'd have expected sample index 1 to be T, but actually sample index 1 would be 0, would be O. Why do I keep saying 0? O, right? So yeah. So this was just a way to show you that, oh, they're actually, it's like a list of characters, right? And that's pretty much what the string is. And the only problem is you can't, okay, we've not gotten to list. So that's, just know that at this level. So that's pretty much what a string is. So what can we do with a string? Now, you would have pretty much heard at some point that, oh, everything is an object in JavaScript. And it's a very, very weighty topic, which I don't think I can explain in even 15 minutes. But just see an object as something that has access to things, methods, what we call methods, right? And then I'm even going to confuse you further. What are methods? And methods are things that what I call it, the functionality of a class. And then again, what is a class? And then a class is something that you create as a blueprint from. It's really going to confuse you. So for now, just know a string is an object. JavaScript, in JavaScript, everything is an object. And what do we mean by that? We mean, remember I said, once a thing is an object, it has access to certain methods. Now, methods are like the functionalities, the actions it can perform. Like classic example, you're a human being, right? Well, of course, you guys are human beings. So you're a human being, and then there are certain things you can. There are certain attributes you have first of all. So you have a name, you have an age, you have a gender. Hopefully, you have a gender, and then what else? Okay, so name, gender, age, right? So for example, my name is Tony, and my gender is male, right? But then again, outside the attributes I have certain actions I can take. For example, I can dance, or I think I can dance. I can sing, well, at least in the shower. I can, what can I do again? I can cook, I can move, I can shout, I can record, I can pretty much anything that falls into the category of a verb, anything I can do, right? At the functionalities I have, or the actions I have. So you, in the programming sense, you say those are the methods I have as Tony, right? I would show you the code representation of what I'm saying, but I just want you to have like an idea of what I'm trying to say. So when you say Tony, now you can see Tony as an object, or let's look at the world as your computer, right? Earth as your computer, right? No, what am I saying? Let's say Earth as JavaScript, right? This big universe with things in it, right? And then in this universe, in this, okay, how am I saying the Earth is a universe? We have the Earth, this big place, right? And then in this place we have things in it. We have objects, exactly. So we would call human being objects in this case, right? And being human beings, every human being you know has certain attributes, first of all, which is they have a name, they have an age, they have a gender, right? And then every human being has certain key functionalities that exist just by being human beings, right? For example, every human being breathes. I mean, you have to breathe to be alive. Every human being, I can't say every human being talks because sadly we have people who can't talk, but every human being breathes. Every human being has a heartbeat. So you can see the heartbeat as one of the core functionalities of you being a human being. And then every human being grows. Yeah, no one is stagnant. I mean, from being biology now. Well, what are you when you're in your mom's belly to when you get till when your mom delivers you, right? Pretty much we grow. Growing is part of what we do as human beings also. So you can pretty much see JavaScript as the earth, and everything in the earth you have objects. And we're going to narrow the objects down to human beings. And every human being has an attribute, and every human being has certain functionalities or methods or actions they can take. So in this case now, in the realms of JavaScript, you can see a string as one of the objects, right? In JavaScript, and being an object, like I said, it has an attribute which is a name. In this case, yeah, it has an attribute being it has its attributes, and then most importantly, it has its methods, right? It has the actions it can take. It has things it can do, and pretty much that is what we're going to do. Used a lot of do in the last few seconds. So we have, back to the code, we have sample, which is, remember, the variable we created, which has the value of Tony. So whenever you create a variable, whatever is to the right of the equal sign, right? Yeah, whatever is to the right of the equal sign is the value that you've assigned to this variable. And now if you notice, I'm using const, but actually let me use let. And you might wonder, okay, what's the difference between let and const? Const, when you use const to declare a variable, it means you want it to be constant, like you never want it to change. For example, I like using examples. For example, let's say you're writing a program for chemistry, right? And we all know the boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. So if you were to create a variable for boiling point, or if you were to create a variable called boiling point, right, you would want to have it at 100 regardless. So no one can change it later on in the program. Like for example, you say we have sample tone here. I could come here and do sample equals, let me say allow shawarma load. So let's do shawarma. I don't know if I can spell it, but I know I can edit it. So shawarma. And let me log sample. If I log sample, you should see, yeah, you should see this shawarma. Now you'll be like, but I thought he said sample is Tony, and now I'm saying sample is being printed out as shawarma. And that pretty much makes my point, which is when you use let, it means you can have changes happen to that variable, right? But if I had made it const, now JavaScript would allow me to do that. It would actually throw an error, which is this. Blah, 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 type error, assignment to constant variable, meaning you can't reassign a value to a constant that has been declared already. So just so you guys know that. So we're back to let. So, and I don't want it to be shawarma. I actually want my sample to be myself, my humble self. So we take that out of the way, and then okay. So pretty much I was going to show you the functionalities that sample has. So one of the things you can do with sample, remember sample is a string. Why is it a string? Because the value you've assigned to it is a string. When one way to know a thing is a string is just you have this quotation marks here. And if you notice, once I do that, the color changes. Now, if you do this, you're going to have an error. In fact, VS Code is already telling you, hey, what are you trying to do? Right? So you must close your string. You start it here, close it here with this quotation marks. You can use the double quotation marks, or you can use a single quotation marks, whichever one. And they have their key differences, but I don't think I want to get into that now. But if you're curious, you could just check the difference between using single quotes and double quotes. Sorry, my phone. And with that out of the way, let's use the double quotes for now. So we have Tony. So now let's say I wanted you guys to capitalize Tony, right? Not you guys, I want to print out the capitalized version of my name. All I have to do is, rather than write a program that, rather than stress myself and write this code that would do that, by virtue of Tony being a string, right? It has certain methods, and one of the methods is to capitalize itself. And I can simply do that by typing sample, like you've seen here, and then the dot. Now you see all these things that appear here. Those are the possible methods that actions that this string can take. So one of the things it can do is to uppercase, which you're seeing here. And if I type this, right, and run this code, it shouldn't work. And I will explain why. Now you see it's only telling you function to uppercase, right? It's telling you what it is, but it's not doing what I want it to do, which is I want to see an uppercase version of this string, Tony. So in order to do that, we have to call that function, right? And that to call a function or to execute the function or to have the function run or to, I don't know, just pretty much, yeah, let's say to have the function run, right? You use this parenthesis again, right? Call it to say, okay, I don't want you to tell me what you are. I don't want you to tell me you are to uppercase. I actually want you to execute yourself, to execute this method on this variable here, which is sample. So if I come here and I do this, and I run this again, you should see something different, which is you now have Tony in uppercase. And this is pretty much in 2 lines of code. Now there's another way I would have done this, which is I would have come here to stress myself and do sample equals Tony, which is stressful. Whereas in just a dot and click, I have the same thing here without having to reassign an uppercase version of my lowercase Tony, right? So now you might be wondering, okay, Tony, what exactly have you just done? And let me quickly show you. Now, if you notice, even when you do console.log, there is console.log, meaning the console itself is an object. That is why it has the method .log. And what does .log do? You can see there are other things here, but what we use is .log, right? So we have console.log, and whenever you do console.log, it's what makes your code or your JavaScript know that it's supposed to print out something to the console. And then you ask yourself, okay, what is the console? This is your console here. Oh, yeah. Terminal or whatever interface the user can or you can see outputs, right, is your console, at least at the basic level of explaining it. So console.log is simply saying, oh, please print out, or if you are being more technical, stand out, std out, right? Std, not the right, but yeah, stand. You have the stand-in and the stand-out, but when I say std out, it actually sounds quite funny. So we have console.log, and then so whenever we do console.log lamal, lamal, or I don't know how you guys pronounce it, or whatever I want it to do, right? It knows, oh, he wants me to print this thing out, right? So the .log, it's a functionality that the console object has, right? Um, the same way sample dot to uppercase to up dot to sorry to uppercase is a functionality that the sample object has. And what is the sample object? The sample object is a string. Why is it a string? Because the value we assign to it is it's a string, Tony, right? So we can actually do this. Let me just show you guys something crazy with JavaScript. We can actually do this, and it still works fine, right? But the reason why you have it in a variable is so that you can call it anywhere. And if I ever want, okay, imagine let me show you guys something crazy. How do you do this thing again? So let's say I've duplicated Tony now, and the quick way to do it is just with VS Code. If you hold Shift, Alt, and down, you can duplicate things, or you could highlight and copy and paste, whichever one works for you. But Shift, Alt, down together. If you hold Shift and Alt and press down, down, each time you press down, it copies it for you. So just thought I should put that out there. So now let's say we have Tony here, and along the line I decide, okay, you know what? I actually want to change his name to Paul. Now, the problem with this method is if I run this actually, you see Tony, Tony, Tony. But now I want it to be Paul, Paul, Paul. I would have to come here and change this to Paul. Come here, change this to Paul. Come here again, change this to Paul. And finally, oh my days, change this to Paul. You can see how tiring this is. And most times you'll be writing codes of 60 lines, 70 lines. You could be writing codes of 2,000, 3,000 lines, 100 lines, 300 lines. I've written code of like 700, 800 lines before. And I imagine if I had Paul in every other place, right? I would have to do this manually, which actually defeats the essence of programming, which is you are this guy that is lazy and you want the computer to do most of the work for you, right? So that is why we have the variable here. So all I would have just done is if come here and replace, if I highlight this and press Ctrl D, it highlights everything for me, and then I Ctrl V, paste, and now I have sample. So now if I print this out, you can see it's Paul, Paul, Paul. If I come here and decide to make it Tony, I probably have Tony, Tony, Tony. So pretty much that's why you'd rather have your string assigned to a variable of any name a chosen name you want. So let me stop duplicating this stuff, and quickly take this out. So now we have sample.to uppercase, and this is one thing we can do. We can equally have log like this, log sorry, log. I'm too lazy, I don't like typing. So you can see it has options. So if I click on this one down and press enter, log sample. So I forgot I should mention this. If you do log, right, and start typing, and what you're typing is highlighted, even if you press the dot, it wouldn't. Okay, it helps you. I think I should just keep quiet. But actually, sometimes if it's highlighted like this, I just go out and come back in. But never mind. So sample dot, right, and now I can do let me see, what can I do? Starts with, I could actually, like, what do you start with? And I could say, okay, do you start with T? And it will tell me true or false, right? But if I say, oh, do you start with R? It will tell me false because my name Tony doesn't start with R. It starts with T, right? And pretty much, again, like I said, there are a lot of things you can actually do. So let's try another one. Let's do let's do something else. Let's do sample dot let's see what let's see the length exactly. Let's see the length of sample. Okay, sorry. Aha, awesome. I actually like this error. Now, if you notice, if I did when I did sample dot length, now a function is, I'll get to explain functions, but just know it's a method. The functions and methods are the same thing. It just depends on the context you're using them. When you have a function in a class, not like a classroom, like there are classes in programming, right? Like not lectures, like it, never mind. Okay, let me just say, remember I told you we have the humankind. In programming, we'll call it the human class. And then in the humankind, we have humans. In programming, we'll say in the human class, we have objects. So you can just map objects to humans, humankind to human class, right? Pretty much. So now, remember I said every human being has an attribute. The same way every object in programming has an attribute, right? So in this case, you don't actually execute an attribute because an attribute is not an action. It's just more like an information about a thing or the object. So in this case, the dot length is not actually an action of the object. It's actually an attribute of the object. The way my name is not my action. I mean, my name is just what you use to identify me. My age is what you use to identify my age. And then my gender is what you use to identify my sex. So exactly. So in this case now, the length of the object, which is Tony, is what you use to identify how long is the object. And in this case, the length is actually how many characters do I have in the variable, in the string. So in this case, if I run this now, it shows me 4, meaning you have 4 characters, Tony. Jesus Christ. Tony, right? Now if I should remove Y and make it ton, you'll see you have 3 Ton. So that you make it blah 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 blah. It's actually, and you notice I have this semicolon here, right? I could even have 1 2 3 4, anything I want actually, as long as it's in the quotation marks, it's fine, right? And you can see the length is 50. So as long as it's in a string, you're fine. And how do you know it's a string? This quotation marks here. Open, close, open. So again, this is a string because I did this one. So usually VS Code, once you type the quotation marks, it does the open and close. So you just start typing straight up. So we have Tony again, and then yep. So sample.length, which is sample. Remember, it's Tony. It's just what the variable I assigned to Tony. The variable I assigned Tony to. Sorry, and it's stored somewhere in my system's memory. So again, Tony false for. Why is it false? Because Tony doesn't start with R. It actually starts with T. And then, yeah, so pretty much this is all you need to know about strings at this level. Strings have methods. Methods are actions that belong to an object. And with the methods, you can do pretty much anything you want to do. And then one good resource you can use is, oh my days. is you could come here and quickly do a strings javascript, and you could use Mozilla, you could use W3 schools. And if you want to play with like other possible methods, I don't know why my screen is bright and why my network is messed up today. Okay, it's actually what is loading now. Sorry, it's my network. I don't know, Glow has been terrible today. So while that is loading, okay, it's loaded. So you can see we have string length, like I said, the length property or attribute, you can use them interchangeably. And then you have finding a string in a string. I would explain that. Index of, pretty much they break down everything for you. So they're called string methods, like I told you, which are just pretty much the functionality or the actions, right, that the method can take. And yeah, so what did I say I was going to explain to you guys? String dot length. Okay, finding the string in a string, right? No, that's not what I said I was going to explain. Uh, Index of, let me see. Oh, yeah, searching for a string in a string. Searches for a string for a specified value and returns the position of the match. Oh, okay. Yeah, so if you try it, or something about this site is if you click try it for yourself, they actually have a sample. So, but it's actually, it looks different because this is like the front endish side of using JavaScript. So this is what you would have in your browser or in your, yeah, in your HTML file, which we are not doing now. But the key takeaway is this: you can see string.search locate, and it shows 7 here. And why is it 7? Because if you do, okay, why is it 7? Let me see. Just search locate. Okay, the next position. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, the first occurrence of a specified text. Yeah, pretty much that's why you have locate here, and it's telling you, oh, the first location is in position 7. And yeah, pretty much then you have which other one? Index of, to check the index position of the thing. So pretty much they have a lot of samples for you to work with here. Or you could equally, let me see, strings JavaScript. You could check Mozilla, which is like the one I actually use a lot, but it could be a bit confusing or overwhelming initially. So you could, yeah, I think they even have stuff on strings. So strings can be created as primitives, from single literals or as objects using the string, blah blah blah. So yeah, string literals meaning this is the way we did it before, and as objects meaning you have this new string. So this is a string. This is like the string class, and this is the object you're trying to create, which is a string object, right? Well, you don't really need to. When we go into classes later on, you would pretty much get to understand these things. And then return character dot at. So yeah, this is like to get the character position of a. It's telling you it's returning. Okay, yeah, yeah. Asking what character is at index position 1, and it's actually a, because you have, remember I told you we count from 0, so 0, 1, 2. C being 0, A being 1, T being 2, right? Yeah. So, but the length is 3, but just so you start counting from 0. And you see here, equally did the same thing here. If you get the index, use the index position also, like this, it returns A. So this is actually a good resource you could use also. And right, but you can use this for W3 schools. And but the best way to learn is to keep, so let's say you want to do something on a string, right? Which you can feel free to ask in the forum, right? If there's an existing method, I'll tell you, oh, there's a method that does this, or you actually have to write the code yourself. And yeah, I think that's that for now. So thank you guys. Oh no. Yeah.